everyone, and welcome to the Café con Fuego podcast. I am Carmen Carrera.
And I am Karolina Kaviar.
We're super excited for our very first podcast here in Miami. And we are launching this podcast because it is Trans Awareness Week.
Woo, 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 woo.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that we touch on some very important topics within our community and beyond. There's a lot going on lately. We just had a pretty historic election season. It's been a lot.
Definitely.
There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of drama just surrounding equality, trans rights, women's issues. And, you know, I think now more than ever, we should be using our voice and our platform to speak to those issues.
I agree.
Yes. And I also feel that there's a lot of content out lately. The past maybe year or so, people have felt very emboldened to speak about us, speak about queer people, speak about women's
the fact that the
bodies.
Republican Party has like a big chunk of their funding and advertisement like was, you know, made on the backs of who we are as people. Like that's like crazy to me. Like so much of the fear mongering and stuff like that was a big part of their, but we're going to get into that. So
absolutely. Definitely. We're going to get into that. And, you know, I want to start off, you know, by saying that I'm a pretty level-headed person.
Yeah, me too.
I can see both sides to every
definitely.
scenario.
Yeah,
you know?
I feel like if we were to like, from conversations we've had, I definitely feel comfortable saying that if we were to actually pick, like, what are you, Republican, Democrat? I would say I'm a moderate. I'm a little bit more fiscally conservative and like socially liberal for, you know, obvious reasons. But yeah. I think that to say I'm either like stone cold like Republican or a Democrat, I'm definitely independent. Like I would say I'm in the middle. I'm in like very moderate.
Same. Well, you know, I thought over the summer, hey, it would be a great idea to some way, somehow connect to some of these more conservative podcasts. You know that I'm dating somebody that's very conservative, Christian.
Yeah, me too. So,
you know,
veteran. He's a veteran. 2 tours, one in Iraq, one in Afghanistan. Man's man. Yeah, so it's funny because an opportunity landed on my lap. I was actually at model volleyball, which is something that we do during swim week. And we basically battle against other modeling agencies. You know, so it'd be like Next versus Elite Miami, like in a volleyball match, you know? Okay,
so
cool. That's hot.
Yeah. So I was there just like enjoying my day. And I noticed that on the beach, there was like this setup for a podcast. And I'm like, what is this big booth set up in the middle of the beach? I didn't pay no mind. I thought it was like maybe a contest or radio station or something. I'm like, whatever. So I'm in my own little world. And, this lady comes up to me and she's like, hey, we'd love to interview you for our podcast. And I'm like, okay, dope. Like, let's do it. Like, whatever. And so I get into the booth and I see that it says Valuetainment. And I'm like, what the heck's Valuetainment?
Right.
Like, what is this? Like, all right, whatever. Like, I'm just going to throw myself in it. So
get into it.
So they sit me down. It's me and another young lady, and it's the host of the podcast, and is asking us, you know, what do you think about it being Easter and Trans Day of Visibility on the same day? I guess apparently on social media, this was like a very controversial thing. Like people were like, it's the trans liberals taking our holiday away, like all this BS.
We're here at Model Volleyball talking to some of the most beautiful women in the world about the transgender topic. Let's talk trans. Okay, we're back at Model Volleyball and we're here with
Maddie,
Carmen.
Maddie and Carmen. Okay, guys.
And it just so happened to land on the same day. Like Trans Day of Visibility is always different time. It's like I think the third week of whatever month, whatever it is. Like, and it just so happened to land on the same day. But people thought like this was a new thing. Like we've been doing Trans Day of Visibility and Trans Awareness Week and also Trans Day of Remembrance, you know, for years. You know,
definitely.
it just so happened to this year land on that day.
It landed on Easter.
On Easter.
But
Correct.
How did that kind of like correlate? Because like I've never seen of those two dates like coinciding. And even for me, I'm gonna be honest, like Girl, I am a loud and proud, like, Latina, like, trans woman. But I'm going to be honest with you, I did feel away also. Because I feel like
this is the thing. It wasn't intentional. It just so happened. But it
feels that way.
No, it wasn't intentional. It just so happened. I think, Easter moves around. It depends on, it's not always the same day. Like, Christmas is always on the 24th and 25th of December, no matter what. It can land on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, no matter what. But Easter, I'm not 100% sure how that works, but it doesn't always land on the same day.
Okay, but I mean, I feel like for me, I'm going to keep it a bean, honestly, like, as controversial as, at this point.
I mean, am I wrong about that? Can we look that up? How is Easter?
This is calculated. This is where I stand on it. Already, Easter is that's a very sacred holiday, where, like, that in itself, Christians already feel a way towards, like, the Rainbow Coalition. So I think to just add that extra layer of, they're like, it's already like giving them kind of like, it's, in my opinion, I felt like if it was like gasoline to the fire, where it's like, girl, like, we couldn't like check it a little bit. So
I have the facts. Let's fact check this. Okay. Easter is celebrated on the first Sunday after the Paschal full moon, which is the first full moon that occurs on or after the spring equinox. The spring equinox is usually on March 21st, but the exact date can vary by a day or two. Do you understand? So yes. Easter can fall between March 22nd or after April 25th. Right. So it's not the fact that it was the Trans Day of Visibility that was hijacking Easter. It just so happened that Easter moves around. Easter is not always the same exact day every single year.
I get that fully, but I also understand where people were. I get it. Two things can be true at the same time. I 100% like.
But the thing is that it's false to say that we're trying to take over a holiday. It was just a coincidence,
but it's a coincidence that sucked, and then it brought so much backlash onto us, and that's the only thing that I want to say.
But I think that God set that up on purpose, because if it hadn't been that way, I would have never been on that podcast, and I would have never said that what I needed to say. Because what I said on that podcast, the host was like, okay, so these two things land on the same day. Which one are you celebrating? And I said, well, I'm celebrating both because I'm transgender. And this guy was shocked.
Oh, yeah,
he was shook. You would have thought he saw a ghost. He was like, floored. You're transgender? What? Right? The guy was like, but you're beautiful. And I'm just thinking to myself, like,
what am I supposed to
look like? Yeah. So I'm celebrating both because I am both Christian and transgender. And
what do you mean you're transgender? Mm-hmm. You're transgender?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful girl.
What do you mean? Thanks. You were born a man?
I was born a child with a male body, yes. And then I transitioned later on in life.
Straight up? Mm-hmm. You're giving me zero
all around us, almost like it doesn't matter.
But what do trans people really look like? There's tons of us that it's like.
Carmen, hold on. Let's back up a second here. You were born with male body parts.
Yes.
Boy, this is blowing your mind.
Blowing my mind.
Yeah.
I see you. So walk us through your transition.
He was shocked, and he was like, I need to have you on my podcast. I'm a host of this podcast, SOS podcast. Like, come on. And mind you, I told my boyfriend about it, and he was like, oh, I'm a big fan of them. That's like a very like conservative podcast. Mm-hmm, and I was like, I got a little nervous. I was like, uh-oh. But I held my own. He was super ignorant about the questions that he was asking me. He was asking me about my genitalia. He was asking me about, what is my questions about my boyfriend and all these things. And I was just like, I get how ignorant you are, but I'm going to answer these in a way that is letting you know what my boundaries are and letting you know, what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah, and that's okay too.
Yeah. And so come to find out, he was so excited about meeting me that he went on another podcast with his homeboys that apparently these guys, they run other major podcasts within this Republican conservative realm.
I think I've seen, where they've had,
PBD podcast.
Sí, que es con el muchachito que like he looks kind of like very like mobster, like Italian with the jet black hair, like pulls back him. I mean, so he's cute, but yeah.
So for me, PBD is like is giving me like peanut butter and dicks podcast. I don't know what it means, what it stands for. The only reason why I say that is because I'm a little evil about it.
Yes, I know. It's okay.
Because these gentlemen all sat in a group, and started to discuss details about me that were super inappropriate. Mind you, this guy that, you know, I had originally met that day on the beach that invited me on his own personal podcast, you know, he's super respectful, like, you know, but when he got around his boys, he was like misgendering me. He was like,
you were interviewing
from the top.
Guys, can you tell me which one it was?
Old men have
but
never
which
heard
one
of
is it? Which one's the one that's the shocking one? You have the timestamp?
You were born a man?
I was born a child with a male body, yes. And then I transitioned later on.
I'd bang that guy. Shush.
Chris, on the fact that the decision was made while he was 25, and then he wanted to be, you know, transition into whatever it is now, but it was made when he was 25 years old. Chris, on the fact that the decision was made while he was 25, and then he wanted to be, you know, transition into whatever it is now, but it was made when he was 25 years old.
And that just goes to show you
that, but guys do that all the time just to save face, because originally he was like, he was enamored by you, by your beauty. You know what I'm saying?
That is a weak man.
Oh, 100%. But
that is a weak man.
But we've experienced that. Like, we've seen that happen a bunch of times. Like, where like a guy will like be like crazy, like into you, and then you let the cat out of the bag, and then now it's like an issue, and then now that's when the switch up comes and the fall from grace comes.
But
and
this is the thing. The fact of the matter is that, you know, you can, respect is free.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't have
and
to,
this guy was this guy was so enamored by me that if I would have not told him that I was trans, I guarantee you he would have been hitting on me. He was giving me that kind of energy.
Level fever.
Totally. And so one of the things that I can't deal with is the fact that, you know, and I know that a lot of people can speak to this experience when it comes to even our allies. Like, when you get around a room of people who tend to be transphobic, are you going to stand up for us? Are you going to set those boundaries for us? Because then you're not really an ally. And this guy made me feel like he was a super duper ally. And so I kind of felt a little betrayed in that situation, because I'm like, wow, that's funny, because when I'm in front of your face, you have all these compliments and, you know, you're giving me my flowers. But then when you get around your boys who clearly don't know any better, or who are maybe doing that on purpose, you want to switch it up. And so I just felt like that was super phony. But he eventually, you know, invited me for the second time on his podcast. The first time that I went on, I hadn't seen that PBD episode yet. And I went on by myself, and I never mentioned that I was trans. And I knew that that's what he wanted, because he wanted to open up that conversation the first time. But the second time around, I brought you.
And you know me, I'm very balls to the wall. I come in swinging. It's titties at the top, dick at the bottom. In the words of T.S. Madison, like, I'm very, very much that. So, like, yeah, that was very interesting segment, a very interesting like podcast.
It was,
to be honest with you.
It was, and I feel like it was a setup. My personal opinion. I feel like it was absolutely set up.
I definitely do feel that they saw an opportunity and they went for it. And I, you know, I mean, hey, I appreciate your hustle. But at the same time, too, you know, I do feel like you're right. Yeah, to some extent, it was a little bit kind of like set up a little bit.
So this is the thing. So we go on the podcast now. This is my third time with this guy on his podcast. And I bring my friend Karolina because we are going to be speaking about the Olympian boxer who people were saying was trans.
Yes. And
which turned out to she was not trans.
No, she's just a woman. She's just a cis woman, a biological female. I know, like, you know, I know a lot of girls, like, I want to try to like the word cis, I feel like a lot of people are having like a lot of.
It's fine. She's a female, an athletic female.
Yeah,
she's an athletic female.
More drops of testosterone than the other girl. She swung on the other girl 2 times.
Listen, regardless of the fact is that she's not trans.
Yeah, she's not. But the world ran with that because why? Because she had 2 more drops of testosterone than the other girl, and just because she's a little bit stronger, now she automatically has to be trans and. The world ran with that, and that's, you know, I mean, that's also part of the like. It's really saddening that we're still here. It's 2024. We're already at this point now. We're about 2 more months. It's 2025, and we're still here, like having these same topics. Like we are not arguing. Like we said it on that podcast before it got hijacked towards the end, which we're gonna clear that up too. Where we understand 110% that we are not female. We're not claiming to be that. We will never be that. I know what a woman is. I came out of one. Like I have so much respect for women. People, I'm a hairstylist. Like
we are trans women.
That's it. That's all that we want. That's all that we want to be respected for. That's all that we want for you to like understand that we're trans women. Like we're not men. Like we're trans women. That's all we want you to respect us as. And the narrative was hijacked towards the end, and then we didn't really have enough time to kind of like, I guess, like even defend ourselves. Like that was just...
Well, yeah. Well, this was the thing. So on the podcast, you know, there's a casting process where they decide who else is going to be on the podcast. I mean, there was a panel of what, like 8 of us that was on that podcast. And, you know, they had invited, an extremist, in my opinion.
100%.
I mean, I didn't know who this woman was. I don't even know what her name is. That's besides the point.
Right.
But they invited this woman who clearly all of her content is geared towards being
she's very
transphobic, being rage bait. Like that's literally her entire platform. I wish I would have known that off the rip.
Yeah, we definitely, just to clarify, we did ask, hey, like, what are the topics that are going to be discussed? Who's going to be on it? Crickets. So we
they were like, oh, we really don't like to say anything just yet. Like, well, we don't even know what it's going to be until the day of, blah, blah, which I think is bullshit.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of bullshit. I definitely do think that because then the way that they span it off rip afterwards when they saw that they had the opportunity was what is gender. So like, what is gender debate or all of this? Like that was never.
This is the thing. This is the thing. Like, if you want to have a gender debate or if you want to debate my existence, let me know and cut me a check. Because then I could get messy and at least I'm walking out with a check. But like, don't invite me on some good faith vibe. Like, oh, like it's a safe space. Like, we love you, Carmen. Bring your friend because we're going to talk about the Olympics.
Like, we were very much
and then
like
try
agreeing.
to come for us.
Like, one of the things that I didn't appreciate, and it makes it so clear that she kind of went in already just like wanting to have her moment. I feel like this is trans people aren't a monolith. And I think it was a very conservative podcast. Like, I mean, that's what the reputation, like, that's the reputation. So, like, for me, my issue was that we were agreeing on almost everything. And then the last 20 minutes is when she, like, took it upon herself to, like, come out swinging, like, super left field and came out saying, oh, but, like, I've been using pronouns this whole time that I felt uncomfortable with.
It's a man to me. You could do whatever you want. You could take whatever hormones you want, dress however you want. I think you're born a man or born a woman, and that's generally how I see things. So I don't use the word trans, actually. I think you can do whatever you want, take up whatever space you want, but you are still a man to me. You look wonderful. You look great. But
yeah, girl, you stand on that side of the street, and we stand on this side, and that's
your opinion. I'm not here to debate that.
Yeah, but I think that's a big thing. That is a huge part of this story.
All these things. So we were agreeing with everything up until this point. Now you just didn't get your moment. Like, you're trying to get your moment. You were expecting us to be these like woke, like super liberal, blue haired, like those like radical extreme like T girls that are very sensitive and over like super like that's what you were expecting, and you didn't come across that. You came across two people that are like, yeah, we're trans, but we're very level-headed. We agreed on everything that was talked about. We talked about it. Yes, we agreed. We don't feel trans women belong in female sports. Open up a lane. Let us compete amongst ourselves. We solve that problem. We understand. We said it. We're not female. You're a woman. I'm a trans woman. It's okay. Our experiences are parallel. They're not linear. We understand that there's a difference. Like, we spoke on all of that. But the fact that she then came super left field and then attacked you, that's what I didn't appreciate.
Well, this is the thing. So I noticed it when I first walked in the door, because I walked in hand with my boyfriend and we were chilling. So that led me to believe that she already knew who I was coming in. I didn't know who she was, but I could tell her energy was so nasty. Like, her spirit was so dirty.
She was kind of like looking like, okay, like, who's the trans one? And
I was like, this is gross. Like, I don't know what's wrong with this lady, but like, her spirit, her energy is not the vibe. And I could tell that while we were on the podcast, she was not only trying to disagree with us, she was trying to come for my spirit.
I'm going to die. You're going to dig up my skeleton and it's going to say male. We understand that. We're not.
You and I are not disagreeing, but
to say that,
to use the word trans, I don't agree with.
I'm gonna say this now.
You're a man who dresses a certain way and takes hormones.
But that ideology doesn't make sense to me, because that seemed logic. I'm gonna flip it back on you. We're gonna look at a wooden chair and you're gonna look at it and say that that's still a tree. No, you're gonna look at here and tell Carmen and say, spoil to her face. Yes, she might have been born a male.
That's a woman, babe. Girl, I miss Mamas was over here saying, oh, you're a man. Mama, you pulled up with them little strappy sandals,
Girl,
with them crusty little toes, oily ass hair. Your
okay, let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let me explain something to you. As like a older trans woman to a younger trans woman.
What?
Okay.
Because if you want to come for me, baby, I will body bag you. Like,
Listen, Linda. This is what it is. Okay.
Tell me, mother.
Listen, I think that you should respect all women, absolutely, but you have to understand how.
But that's the problem that I have.
Okay, but
they come for you.
Okay, but wait.
They will come for you.
Hold that for when I'm done.
They'll come swinging at you and then hide behind the fact, oh, but I'm a woman. And then they want to hide behind that.
Okay, but let me explain to you.
Then you want to weaponize your biology against me. And no, that I don't agree with.
Hold on.
We're fine up until this
point. We're going to get into that.
You don't have to like me. You don't have to appreciate. You don't have to speak the trans shit.
Let's talk about this chick first.
You stay on the side of the street. I stay on mine. The only problem I have with people that don't like us or feel a way about us is when you're in a position of power to where you can fuck me over.
Okay, but listen to me.
That's my only issue.
We're going to dive into that in a second. I want to get through this specific case. Listen,
I got my gloves up.
But that's what I'm saying. You have to understand that by you becoming reactive, you're not solving anything. You're just making the problem worse. So you have to be able to analyze.
I'm supposed to put my hands behind my back and let her come for me?
No. You have to analyze it. You have to understand that there are some women in this world that are not happy being a woman. They're mad,
but that's not my problem. Don't make it my problem.
You have to have.
Stay on your side of the street.
You have to have. Listen to me, and I'm giving you some straight up advice. You have to have more grace than they're going to be willing to offer you, because your peace of mind is way more valuable than some hater. Like, you have to be able to overstand the situation, or else you're going to become absorbed in it. You're never going to find resolution with people who don't accept you. If people that accept you are going to accept you, the ones that don't accept you are the ones that you have to just understand and move on.
People like her already made up their mind about how they feel about us already. Like, we saw that. The way that, okay, we went on a conservative podcast. Our views were very much, in my opinion, for what I heard from the people, like from my people that saw it and then came up to me about it saying, hey, your views were like, you killed it on the podcast. You guys did great. You were very conservative with a lot of things that you said. So we already went on a podcast. We agreed with a lot of things that they said. They didn't have any room in their minds for a nuance, for a different type of they had this image or this idea of what a trans woman is or what trans is in their mind. And then we came in completely opposite of what that narrative is. And they already had their minds made up about how it was going to go. And we went in already, we agreed with everything. We were super level-headed. We were able to find a middle ground on a lot of things. And then it still didn't matter because they already made up their minds of how it was going to be, and that's it. There was no changing it.
But this is the thing that you have to understand. This.
You don't like me. I don't need.
Well, she's a T.E.R.F.
That's it. Yes.
Yes, and I agree.
I'm not that on the podcast. I'm like, if you're a T.E.R.F., just say that.
I'm not by any way trying to excuse. Yeah, like, you have to understand as a woman, and maybe when you get to the point that you feel like you blend into society, through and through, that you don't have, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you get to that point, then you're going to start to understand that some women are haters. There are some women in this world that constantly compete with each other.
Oh, yeah, but if a lot of women are nasty amongst themselves, how are they going to make space for us?
Let me get through this sentence so you can really drill it in what I'm trying to say to you, because I have way more experience functioning in spaces where people don't know that I'm trans than you do. Mm-hmm. And it's going to come to a time that you're going to be fighting a lot more battles than you need to. So you're going to have to understand something about female society. There's women in this world that are so jealous of other women, are constantly competing, and don't know how to function in anything else but that mindset. So when they see a happy little trans woman coming along, embracing her femininity, loving being a woman, they feel some type of way because they feel like we shouldn't have access to that joy because they don't. Mom. And so that's what you have to understand, that we can't constantly be trying to win over every single woman that we meet, because that's not the game they're playing. So you got to be able to know when to move on from it so that you're not swallowed up in their mess, because all they want to do is take your joy. So by you getting all worked up, by you wanting to put on your gloves, is just letting them rob you of your power, your essence, and your joy. Because you shouldn't have to come out of character just because some other bitch doesn't know how to give you your lane. Do you understand?
Yeah, I think I will be... Okay, I'm going to...
Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm gonna like USA a little bit.
Well, yeah, because I mean, the way that I feel about her is like, I literally have watched all her content now, and the way she talks about other women, it's kind of sad, because I'm like, dude, if you don't like women that much, or if you don't like being a woman that much, become a man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, at that point, I mean, you fully can now. They're like,
and that kind of brings that kind of brings up an issue that I had with Candice Owens' recent interview with my friend Danielle and with Ray
I saw
J.
that one. Yes, that was a cute little interview.
Okay, so this is a perfect example. Like, and I love Danielle, and this is not me reading Danielle, because Danielle, it took a lot of bravery, I could tell, to sit next to someone like Candice Owens, who's literally saying, "You're crazy." That was really the takeaway that I got.
That I didn't like was the fact that she wants to point to
mental health,
like it's a mental disorder.
If you are living your life as something that you are not, and you believe inside of you that you are this, she's not hurting anybody, but she is suffering from a mental disorder. Now this is where things get tricky.
Well, this is my issue. I have one issue with, besides the mental health. It's like, listen, you could call me crazy.
Because we are diagnosed with gender dysphoria.
Listen, everybody has mental health issues when it comes to certain things, you know? And
like, the whole point of you being trans is that you have gender dysphoria. So like, I don't want to say it's a disorder, but it's a way of like
every trans person is unique.
The way that we alleviate that dysphoria is with transitioning. So I agree with if you guys want to go and watch it.
But I never had gender dysmorphia. I was never as before my transition. I was cool, calm, and collected. Listen, I've always been that guy, and now I'm that girl. Like, that is my personal experience. There are people who have mental health issues wrapped into their transition, and that's fine. But that's not every single trans person.
I was super popular in high school.
That's what I'm saying. Like, my whole life has been popping.
I've always been that girl, honey, because even back in the day, it was Miss Michael.
But this is what I'm saying is like, I don't have issues. I don't have issues with my mental health before my transition. So to generalize people, to generalize a whole group of people to say you have mental health issues because you want to transition is wrong, and is dangerous, because it then gives other people agency to pass judgment and to say like, oh, well, I diagnose you as this, when that's not even the case. Right. Because I'm not ashamed of my life before my transition. That was the whole point of me going on TV. It was just like, dude, I'm happy with myself, and I'm happy with showcasing my whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I didn't transition at such a big scale the way you did. I feel like, but like for me, like I didn't transition like at such a big scale like the way you did. But I mean, a lot of like I transitioned in front of like all of like the whole scene as far as like on Miami, like the Miami drag scene, like my friends, my family, like on Instagram and stuff like that. So like, I mean, I wouldn't say. See, your experience was different. Like for me,
but that's
transitioning saved my life. Like,
yeah,
as comfortable as I was, like being a little gay boy and stuff like that, like the bliss and like the euphoria that I feel now, like after transitioning, like being 4 years in, I definitely feel, girl, like transitioning saved my life.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I feel so much more comfortable in my skin now.
The whole point is that everybody's transition is different. That's just the point that I'm trying to make. And so going back to Danielle and Candice Owens, like I felt like Danielle was basically saying, well,
you're just not a woman, and you're never going to be a woman.
And I know that.
Right, exactly.
And that's why I wanted to make that point. But people weaponize that. See, people love being like, you're not a woman. And I'm like, yeah, cool, great point. I agree. As like a woman, a trans woman and stuff, or do you see me as like he and like a costume?
I think that you're wearing a costume.
Okay.
And
do you see me as a boy, or do you see me as a trans woman?
I mean,
or do you think I'm a feminine boy?
I just think that we've adopted these words. I think that you have gender dysphoria.
Right.
You feel happier in this.
I'm more meaning physicality. This, and we were just vibing, or if I went to your church and stuff, like you're not looking at me as like a boy or like Ray and glam.
Well, to be fair, since I knew you were coming here, I feel like it's not a fair question to ask because, but to be clear, there are tons of, especially today, you could literally look at somebody on the internet and never know that they lived as the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And or that they were born as the sex that they're not presenting, rather, is the better way to say it. But to me, I don't know. Like for me, I think that it's just dishonesty. Do you know what I mean?
If you're not being honest.
If you're not being
like,
honest.
When I, like one time, and I ain't never told nobody this.
Aren't I passable? Like, I'm passable. So if you see me in the bathroom, like, you're not going to bat an eye, right? Like, I felt like she was seeking approval from Candice because she's passable. And I just want to make that point, is that us as trans women cannot put all of our eggs in the passability basket, because yes, you have a certain set of issues before you become passable, but then afterwards, you're going to have another set of issues after.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the things that you've always told me, Mother, is like, you're like, oh, baby girl, I like definitely passability does wash away a lot of problems, but it does come with a whole new set of other ones. But like for me in my head, like, I agree with you. And in a perfect world, this is my, like, I think it's going to get to a point where you and I are going to be good cop, bad cop, because like I do see, I feel like what I really want to say, I feel like I'm even kind of holding back from, because you know what, fuck
say
it.
what you got to say.
Baby,
listen,
presentation matters.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Passability.
If you are saying that you're trans, there are a lot of girls that I have said,
I know what you're saying.
Look, I'm sorry. Look, there's a lot of instances. Look, right now, the whole thing, we are now where we're at. A lot of the things that we're at now and the things that we're the backlash that we're getting is a lot from a lot of these girls that like, what are you doing in Planet Fitness, getting a freaking razor, shaving your beard in the women's restroom? Like, what is the rush to enter into women's spaces? What is like, what, like for me, it's like the thing of like, there's milestones in your transition. Like I didn't start going into the women's restroom until I was passable. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think you do have a point.
I would cause the least amount of social disturbance, because at the end of the day, all it takes is for a girl to feel away, tells her boyfriend, and her boyfriend whoops my ass outside. I can fight, but like, you know, whatever, like, it's unnecessary thing, like, where like, I find that a lot of it, it's a lot of,
I get what you're saying.
I haven't seen a black or Latina T-girl do it. I see it's a white T-girl that you got on a full-ass beard, and you in that Planet Fitness bathroom with them and one sneakers, towel wrapped around your neck, you shaving your beard over the sink. Hello, like, that's not trans.
Okay, that's a cross-dresser. Can I talk to you right now? You need to not go on tangents, because I have to be able to speak to something before you move on. So this is the thing. I get the point that you're trying to make. And I understand your passion, and I think you're right. And I think that was the same point that Danielle was trying to make. But at the same time, the flip side to that coin is that you shouldn't feel entitled to acceptance because you're passable. Because now what that does is that saying everyone else who's not passable, don't accept them. Because if us as a trans community, if we don't have each other's back, do you understand? If we don't have each other's back, what do we have? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the most.
I get what you're saying
too. Like, there's the ones that are the girls that aren't as possible are the most vulnerable amongst us. So like I agree with what you're saying. So I want to stand
up for my sisters too, but
I do too. But
and maybe that's including like, hey girl, like don't go into the restroom. You ain't ready for that yet. Maybe that's what that should be.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm getting at is we need to hold each other accountable.
Absolutely.
Because of the fact that like, what is the rush if you might not be ready to go into that space yet? And like for me, like it's. Girl, like, I'm not saying, look, not everybody has the resources. Not everybody has the means. Not everybody, maybe you're in a state that you don't have the same access to it or things like that. Like, but like, for me, like, okay, like, I get it, girl. I really do get it. Like, sister, I understand because, like, I was there too. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to figure out how to get my hormones, like, and how to do all these things. But, like, also, like, you can't put all of these things as an excuse because what about now it's a lot more, things are a lot more accessible. What about like 15 years ago in the 80s, 90s, the girls that were escorting or doing all of these things to buy their hormones black market to like do, there's so many things and then they didn't come up with all of these excuses. They took it more serious. Like back, I feel like now the narrative is like where there are a lot of girls that aren't actually taking any steps to their transition and they still want to be taken seriously as a woman, but the presentation isn't there. And it's not fair for you.
It's fair.
It's not fair for me that I'm taking the steps. I pump hormones. I'm getting my boobs done soon. Like all of these, like, and like all of these changes that I'm doing in order to be able to blend into society where I feel like now before, in my opinion, the goal of transitioning was to assimilate into society the best way that you could, the easiest way that you could, so that you can lead a normal life. Where I feel like now we've gotten to a point where the narrative is, you don't need to take, like, you need to take me, if I'm telling you I'm trans and my pronouns are she, her, you need to run with that. And then you look at her and it's not correlating, and then they're getting mad or they're sensitive.
I get it.
Over the fact of, like, they're calling me he, him, but girl, like, you is not giving she, her, and you can't be mad at that.
Well, I mean,
like, take your transition serious.
Yes, I agree, but then there's also, I mean, thank God for gender neutral restrooms, and that's
100%. When I wasn't at the point where, like, I consider, for me now, I feel like I'm no surgeries, 4 years deep. I'm pretty good. I go into the bathroom. I haven't had an issue. I haven't had any problems. No, for the most part, nobody bats a lash. Mm-hmm. I don't get the he, him stuff that as often as I did like when I was at the drawing board. Mm-hmm. But like for me, it's like what I said, like during those times, I would use a third space, like the family restroom or things like that. Or I would, like, at that time, even then, like, if it wasn't giving, like, the full person, I would just go into the men's restroom. At the end of the day, I felt pretty comfortable enough, like, if the situation came up that I had to fight, all right, I'll you know, it is what it is. But, like, it's, the thing for me is that I get what you're saying, mother, like, I really do. But it's, like, one of those things where, like, girl, we need to need to hold each other accountable too.
I get it.
And you need to take your transition serious.
This is the thing. I just want to speak up for, you know, some of the injustice. Like, I see what you're saying, but also at the same time, you know, if you want to come for somebody's dignity unprovoked, you are a bad person, and I don't know who raised you. Like, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
You know, if someone, like, we were both on that podcast, you know, like you said, we were agreeing to what some of the points that were made, not to be in agreement, but it's because we genuinely agree.
That's how I genuinely feel like we shouldn't be in female sports. Give me a lane. I'll compete. I can go toe to toe against another T girl. Like, that's it. Like, that's in the argument. Like,
I just feel like you shouldn't use people's vulnerability as a weapon.
Yeah,
you're a bad person.
Because I mean, that girl, like, that is starting on. Maybe she just, girl. At the end of the day, we're going into the bathroom to pee. We're more scared of you than you should be of us. If I'm, like, the argument of, oh, like, trans, like that we're often, like, they make us out to be, like, predators, or they make us out to be, like we're raping women, or all of these things, like, that there have been stories that have surfaced of, like, men that have, like, that cross-dress or whatever, and they got into the women's restroom to, you know,
but
whatever.
how about
at the end of the day, if a man wants to go and rape you, he doesn't need to put on a wig, a lashes, and some heels to go into the women's restroom to rape you, girl. He can just go up in there and do it. Like, he follows you at the mall,
whatever surgeries? It is. I don't know whose kid is walking into school and getting surgery.
Crazy. That was crazy.
That is not real. That is a lie.
That was crazy. But I will, like I said on that podcast, I'm sorry. I don't think children should be transitioning. I don't think a child has the full scope of what this is at 11, 12, 13 years old. I feel like, yes, their conversation, there should be, as the kids should have a safe space with their parents to discuss it, you know, to be able to explore it. But I'm not putting, if my kid now, I have a stepson. If my stepson was to tell me and his father, hey, Kiki, I think I'm trans. I want to, like, I would be like, okay, like, I would ask certain questions. What does that mean to you? Why do you feel this way? What makes you think that? Like, and I would explore it, and I would talk to his father and be like, hey, like, you know, I didn't start transitioning until I was 23. I already knew in high school, but I wanted to wait as long as I could because I knew what this is. Like, I really wanted to be 100% sure. And it's okay. Like, what is the rush is what I'm saying. I don't think a child at such a young age understands the full scope of what this comes with. Society's going to see you different. Your friends, family, the world, everything changes. Once you make the decision to put that needle in your ass cheek and to start taking hormones.
But this is the thing, honestly, like
a kid getting castrated is crazy to me.
I don't know where that really happens. I think that a lot of the Republicans have used that as propaganda in order to get people to co-sign, because it's like, oh, let's aim for, you know, the vulnerability of children and create this lie that children are transitioning. They're walking into school one day and the next day they're girls or whatever it is, which is a complete lie. Like, in order to have any type of transgender medical care as a minor, you have to go through so many steps. It's like you got to get a psychologist, you have to have your parents co-sign, you have to have the school like on board. It's so many levels. It's not as easy as Donald Trump says that it is. It's misinformation.
Yes, I agree with you. You're not wrong, but like at the same time, like I had an experience recently where I had a client. I went over to her house. They're loaded. Like they have a really nice house in Key Biscayne. And I see this little girl, and she's like 15, and she's looking at me, and then I was like,
I'm gonna ask you if you're a boy or a girl.
No, I'm gonna hit you with something.
Because kids will be the one.
No,
kids will be the ones to be like.
Oh, I've always said like the three things that'll clock you the fastest is a black woman, or an Asian at a nail shop, or a kid. Like that. Yeah. Listen, that super quick. Whenever you hear acho, that's not acho. They're like, that's a boy boots. But anywho, like the I started talking to her, and she's like, "You're really pretty." And then basically, long story short, she was trans. And then I was like, oh. And I was like, this little girl, you could not, babe, like, I was like, my mind just blew up. Like, I was like, how that guy was with you at the beach. Yeah. That was me with that little girl. That little girl is 15, and she got SRS.
Wow.
Like, they took her to, her mom took her to Europe. Wow. And paid like almost like 6 figures for this little girl to get.
Does that not sit right with you?
It didn't.
Well,
it didn't, because she started talking to me about what dating was and the things that she's gone through at that young age. And I was like, and then I'm here, she's asking me as a trans elder, because I'm 28. I have, way more experience like on her than, you know what I'm saying? And then it really, she definitely had a level of self-awareness at that age that I feel like I had. I've always been very self-aware, but I felt like in my mind, I was like, I hope this little girl makes it. Because the stuff that she was telling me and like things that she's struggling with.
Well, listen,
at 15, I think that is a lot for a 15-year-old to handle.
That is a lot. That is a lot. I mean, listen, for me,
that was a lot for me.
Listen, personally, I
didn't agree with that. Like, her mom took her out of the States to do that.
I can't speak on anyone else's parenting. I try to be respectful when it comes to other people's decisions.
Me too, but that was crazy to me.
And my only hope, honestly, is that I, as an activist, can contribute to making the world a safer place for trans people in the future, because we do have a large wave of younger trans people that are in their teens, early 20s, who are very passable. They're very passable. They don't look trans at all, whatever, what have you. And they're going to have to navigate the world in similar experiences of what I'm going through now as somebody who experiences passibility on a daily basis. And so my focus is like to judge less on who's making those decisions, even though I agree with you. Maybe if I were to have, a kid right now who was telling me that they were trans, I'd probably wait as long as possible to start the medical procedures. Too. However, for the parents who have, it's like, I give you a lot of love and support. And for the kids who know who they are, because I knew who I was in kindergarten.
I mean,
but the world wasn't a safe place.
I mean, I feel like at the same time with how I'm saying this, I will be vulnerable enough and be vulnerable enough with you and with everyone watching that.
Like, is it coming from a place of fear is what I'm trying to say.
That's where I'm getting at. Where like, I can't sit back. Okay. I agree with what. No. Okay. No, I'm okay. No. Come on, girl. Be vulnerable. You got this. It's okay. I can't sit here and complain or feel a way for the work that you've put in, that I've put in for the next generation to be able, the resources that we have fought for the next generation to have what you've put in for me to be able to you've been a trailblazer. The stuff that, look at now, 2 Victoria's Secret models after they petitioned for you. That happened. Yeah. You were the first one that put that, you know what I'm saying? Now here we are.
Planted the seed.
Yeah, and now look what blossomed out. 2 girls, not just 1, 2. Yeah. So like, I get it, but at the same time too, it's in part it is coming from a place of fear, and I can't pigeonhole the situation, because we fought for this. But at the same time too, I'm just a little bit weary, because like, I know everything I went through, and I don't want.
But that's the thing. It's going to be different for them. it's going to be different for them because there is such a strong generation behind us coming up.
Yeah.
That,
I mean, Gen Z's.
That's why I try I try my best to understand where everybody's coming from, you know? And this is the thing. So I was actually, this weekend, I was in Rhode Island and I had to speak at an event where they're, you know, fundraising for young people and, you know, the LGBT center. And there was this woman that came up to me after my speech and she was like, hey, I just want to let you know that I love you so much. I have a 17-year-old daughter who, you know, is a lesbian and she's having a lot of anxiety and worry about, you know, fitting into school. And she's a ballet dancer and she's even stopped dancing because of it. Like she's just super anxious about, you know, everything that's going on and like really trying to come and step into her power as, you know, a young lady, as a teenager, 17-year-old lesbian.
Right.
And she told me that she was conservative, you know, Christian, and like that comes with its own thing when, you know, especially when you're a young 100%. Kid. And I told her, I'm like, bring your daughter. I want to talk to her. You know, her daughter was there that night. And she comes up to me and I'm like, listen, I'm going to give you some sound advice. And this needs to like hit home. Okay. Who you are as a queer person and finding your power as a queer person is not going to come naturally to you because this world is not made for us to feel powerful. So what you need to do is protect that at any cost and be a 17-year-old kid. Be a kid and focus on the things that make you an amazing 17-year-old kid aside from your sexuality, your gender, and all these things, because that's just going to get in the way of you enjoying your youth. You know, you're a ballet dancer, keep dancing. You know what I'm saying? You probably have so many amazing qualities of you that you're not letting yourself evolve into the woman that you're going to become just yet. And the power in being trans and the power in being lesbian or being a gay person is going to come once you step into the totality of your human experience. You can't just say, I'm a trans person and stop there.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
we're
I
more
would
than
say,
that.
yeah, 100%. Like, trans is what I am, but it's not the totality of who I am. I'm a sister. I'm a godmother. I'm a hairstylist.
Like? You have to start to think like what
showgirl, like personality, like entrepreneur. So many things. There's so many layers to me. Yeah.
Like if a diamond only cared about it shining, you know, on the top, you know, part of it, what about all the other facets? Like you have to remember it. It's like, you know, everyone's human experience is interdimensional. It's, you know, multidimensional. It's so many layers deep. And so when we start to dehumanize each other, you know, the world's going to do that for us already, but we shouldn't do it to ourselves. Because now we lose ourselves and the anxiety kicks in and the stress about trying to figure it all out and trying to be combative with people who are not going to accept you in the first place. And this kind of goes back to the whole thing with like try to fit in within female society. It's like there's going to be some girls. I ask any of my girlfriends who are not trans, you know, they tell me, yeah, there's some bitches that are just haters.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's like happy hoes ain't hating. You get what I'm saying? And hating 100%. Hoes ain't happy. Like that's literally what it is. And so we have to remember that as trans people, because we tend to put our vulnerability first, which is being trans. It's a very vulnerable space because we don't have many safe spaces and safe lanes carved out for us. So we kind of have to like move into the world not knowing how people are going to treat us or accept us or not accept us. And so instead of putting that vulnerability up for people to grab, you have to protect that, you know, and that just goes for any human being. Like so your story.
What does that look like to you?
My inner child, really, you know, my inner child. And the way that looks like is knowing that I'm a powerful human being. You know, aside from being trans, I have many other interesting facts and talents about myself that should matter first when it comes to connecting to people. And then when I trust you enough to let you in on my childhood or things that hurt me or things that I love or my trans experience or my love life or whatever, then that's because I trust you and I let you in. But I shouldn't lead with that because that's going to, you know, set you up. That's gonna set you up for people to hurt you.
Yeah.
And so we have to remember that as trans people too, that it's like you have to protect your inner peace and understand that there's going to be people in this world that's not going to accept you, and that's normal. Not everybody has to accept us.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree with you. Like we've had these conversations even like just when it's just you and me. So like my issue is like why I feel like I'm so passionate about it is because like I have like damn, like it's bitten me in the ass so many times where I've gotten fired from jobs because I'm trans, or I've come in and then I think that it's a safe space, and then it wasn't, and then I've gotten let go, or like there's been a lot of instances where like I'm like, or I felt like, you know.
Well, then you sue them. That's a different story.
Yeah, but we're in Florida. This is a state where they don't need a reason to fire you. They can fire you. Oh yes, baby. Yeah, my love. Like for now, like I worked in. There was like I will tell you a story. Like before I rented my chair. Like before I took it upon myself to be like
hair salon.
Yeah, I'm a hairstylist. Like that's like my day, like my day job at night. You know, like I work at Willie's now. Like I handle the door at Willie's. Check it out, guys. It's at Willie's in Wynwood. It's in Wynwood. Super awesome neighborhood bar. I run the door. I do VIP there, bottle service. So hit up your girl. You know, we can work something out for you, get you lit. You know, so you guys have a good time. But before I started renting my chair and I decided to come back into the gay scene, like for work, is because I was fully invested in being in daytime and stuff like that. And this was a conversation you and I had where like oftentimes like for all my younger T girls out there, like you have to put yourself in the line of fire, unfortunately, to build up the grit and to build up the character and to learn how to navigate society and how to integrate into society as a trans woman. And part of it also sometimes is taking a couple licks to the chin, girl. Like it sucks, but it's part of it, unfortunately. So I worked predominantly with a lot of biological women, and I definitely felt the shift where like a lot of the times that I almost either I would get more like I was finding myself getting let go from these jobs because of my transness, because of the fact that they're like, oh, why is it that like she, you know, and then they would make the environment so uncomfortable to where like I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's going to happen, you know, and that's why it's really important to find a safe space as a trans person.
Yeah, now I rent my chair and you can't come for me because what are you going to say?
I mean, listen, I'm a big advocate for staying in your power and finding where you're the most powerful. And so for me, it's always been about making my own podcast, having my own business, and like, you know,
that's the decision I made because I would go in with my best foot forward. I'd be making the owners a ton of money. Someone would complain or they'd feel away because I'm there and they're having to call me she, her. They're having to respect me in a way that they don't necessarily want to. They make it a big deal. The owner feels like caught between the rock and a hard place. They make it uncomfortable. And then they give me some,
that's a very, you know what it is,
some
though?
bullshit, like run around excuse.
But you have
and they
to
fire
be
me.
honest with yourself, because working in a nightclub setting is you're putting yourself in a very superficial place. That's why, like, you won't see me at the strip. I'm not going to the strip club. I'm not going to the strip club unless I know for a fact that we have a VIP. I'm not even going to walk into a nightclub unless we already have a table, because that's just how it is. Like listen, let me tell you a story. And I'm going to get really real with you right now. I was in Mexico, I think, and there was a bunch of guys who rented a yacht, right? And I'm with a bunch of females. Okay. I'm the only trans girl in my friends group when we go out, when I was single, when we would go out to like Vegas and all these party cities. And they literally you'll walk, you know, up to the boat. We walked up to the boat, 10 girls deep. The guys were like, we'll take her, and her. Everybody else got to go. Because that's just how it is. That is legit what a lot of men put women through. And that's why a lot of the women act the way they act when it comes to competing on all these things.
Well,
like that's how their society, that's how straight society is.
But then that was one of the things that I feel like was the reason why I went so viral in that clip, was because I touched a button in a lot of women that's already, it's something that's in a lot of women that a lot of women are seeing, that I went viral with that girl. That conversation I had with her, where like, unfortunately, it's something that a lot of women don't want to come to grips with, where it comes down to we're dating the same men. No, and there's a competitive aspect to where like we are competing against the same the attention for the same men, because like, all right, it's like what I said, like I'm 4 years deep. You're, I want to say, I'm 12. Like 12.
Yeah.
You're 12. Like we're at 2 different points in our transition and in our lives. Like you're a little bit older than me.
But that's why it's like for her, she felt so
threatened.
So no, but she felt like, because she was not going to try me in the same way that she was going to try you.
Oh, of course
because
not.
she knows that you are a little bit more naive to the female hatred. You get what I'm saying? Like in that way that what she was trying to say, like, oh, we are not dating the same kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I mean, we are. You might see me as a man baby, but your father, your baby daddy, your boyfriend, your brother, your cousin, your homeboy might not. You know what I'm saying? Like, will not. You know, like it. But and I've seen it with my own eyes, with my own peepers. There have been stories like where I've gone out with my homegirls that I'm the one that gets them into the section and they're the ones that are real fish. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so a lot of men, when it gets to a certain point, they don't care. And then that is what I've noticed, that a lot of girls I've had it happen to me where I've gone out by myself. I'm like, whatever you want to say, whatever it is, however you want to say, I'm going to tell you this story that happened to me, something like that, like where I went out to a bar and I went out to a straight bar with my homegirl. And I was like, all right, I was at the bar. We were having a great time. I see this guy circling me like a shark. Whatever, he comes up to me. I give him and then he's talking to me and stuff like that. And he's like, hey, I want to buy you a drink. And I'm like, hey, papi, I just want to let you know, no todo lo que brilla no es oro. Like,
you were letting him know that you were trans off the bat.
No todo lo que brilla es oro.
Yeah.
Like, and then he's like, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, I don't think I'm the girl for you. And then he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like,
special.
I'm like, babe, I'm trans. And he's like, wow, shawty. Like, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, all right, thank you for like keeping it, you know, it is a little bit, the lights are a little bit dimmer here, you know, stuff like that. And like nowadays it's a little bit harder to tell because there are a lot of like females that have that have the same amount of gender reaffirming surgeries that we do. I've gotten their boobs done 3 times, 4 BBLs, 5 rhinoplasties, like that are surged beyond belief, just like us. And then he's like, okay, like, wow, like thank you. And I was like, okay, so like, are you cool? And he's like, yeah, you're a pretty girl. Like you're dope. Like I want to talk to you. Like, I don't care about that. Like I see a pretty girl. I'm riding with that. I want to buy you a drink. What do you want? And I was like, all right. Yeah. And then I was able to chill and we were talking. And then I see a female across the bar that just keeps eyeing us down. And then I'm looking at him and I'm like, hey, is that like your girl or something? Like she keeps like looking over here. Like, I just want to make sure. Like, I don't want no smoke. Like, I'm here with my girl. I'm just I don't want to fight nobody.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no. Like, I don't know her. I don't know why she's looking over here. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the bathroom. You good, girl? You got a wedgie? Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then I was like, oh, papi, you know, give me a second. Babysit my drink. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I come back. Shorty comes all the way around and to where we're at. And then she looks at him both in the face and says, you know, that's the man, right?
Oh, of course.
And then he looks at her. He looks at her and he looks at me. And he's like, damn, you wildin' for that. And then she's like, oh, like...
it's the competitive nature of the
he's like,
where
not
you're
that
at.
It's any of your business, but she already told me was up. And at the end of the day, the only reason why you coming up to me with all of this, I don't know what you thought was going to happen, but the only reason why you coming up to doing all of this right now is because I've been curving you the whole night. Obviously, you ain't see that I'm not interested. I'm here with her.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? What you want? What do you think was going to happen here?
Well,
I was going to leave with you because you told me she's trans?
That's pretty strong of him because a lot of men would fold they would fold in those situations.
Oh, no, they would, but
they would be like, oh, I didn't know. And then they'll walk away. Mind you, they already had the conversation with you.
Oh, boots.
But just because to save them their own perceived dignity, they're going to be like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
damn, thanks for looking out.
I mean, look what you just,
but
the story you just
said. They'll still text you at the end of the night.
Yeah, what you said about earlier with the dude, like he was like fully like, you know, pretended to be like super cool with it. And when he was around his boys to save face was then now acting out. You know what I'm saying? Because,
it is
but you want to know where that comes from?
Little dick behavior.
You want to know where that comes from? Is because he's trying to save face in front of his boys because he liked you.
Of course.
He liked you and he was feeling away. So he wants to try to save face for his boys. And this is the thing that I'm going to talk, girls. I'm telling this right now to all my sisters out there watching. Baby, I promise you that like when it comes to men, they will do and say anything to save face. Like you can't get hurt about it. It goes back to what you said. Like they'll mack it to you, all of this stuff, and then they're put in the hot seat. And I didn't know. Meanwhile, girl.
Well, yes. I mean,
meanwhile, you just blew their back out. Like,
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's so nasty.
Girl, yes, because a lot of they be the main ones that be like,
I don't know. I don't be
Janet Jackson be like, oh, so
I don't be blowing nobody's back out.
You don't.
I don't.
No, you don't. No, that's a. We're gonna get.
But I see what you're saying because I totally understand exactly what you're saying. But but that just goes to show you that it's like we have to take care of each other, and when it comes to
that's definitely a conversation I want to have with you, like certain things like that.
Like
when
sex,
it comes,
of course, we will on the next episode. We will be talking about sex.
Yes.
No, but honestly, when it comes to other women, I mean, women have always, even amongst themselves, women are like, hey, we got to like start being, less competitive and more about women celebrating women. And so this is already an issue within female society. And so here we come, happy-go-lucky, like trans women, like really loving our feminine experience. And so it's going to threaten some of the women. So it is what it is. Like, I think the more we talk about it and the more that we shed light on it, hopefully it will cause more of, a shift to the positive, because the way that I see it, like I grew up with all women, of course, my uncles and my cousins and all that, but I grew up with some powerful Latina, beautiful women that were not haters. And so that's the only kind of women I want to surround myself with. And when I look at other women and other females, I think like that's my sister and we are here to help each other out.
Yeah.
I'm not here, like, I'm not the type of trans person that's like, oh, I'm here to come for other women. Like, that's kind of dumb and that's not realistic.
Bro, we're the first ones that they call, like, and stuff like, it's just like, I really, a big reason why I agreed when you like brought this up with me, because I want us to get to a place where like we can't have that sisterhood. Baby, trans women aren't your enemy. Ignorance and misinformation. Oh, excuse me. Ignorance and misinformation is like, girl, I'm not coming for you. I want you to win too. You know what I mean? Like,
well, this is the thing. I just want to say that I want to finish with this is that, I've seen a lot of stuff on social media where people are trying to define what a woman is. And my definition of a woman is very simple. A woman is a human being, typically female, who assumes the feminine role in her society and culture. And the reason why I say that is like words are very important. A woman from Mumbai is going to be a different woman from Texas. Yeah. The word woman, it's about your surroundings. It's about your, the culture. It's about tradition. It's about all of the things that tell you what a woman is. Female, different word, different definition, clearly. But the experience of a woman is just not limited to a human female. And I just, that's my experience of it, because me as a woman, I consume women's products. I live a very passable life. I don't have to wear, my trans identity on my sleeve everywhere I go, even though I'm very transparent with my transition and being a trans woman. I'm very proud to be a trans woman. But at the end of the day, I don't wake up and live a trans woman's experience. I live just a woman's experience and all those little details of, what that entails. And so, I just want to be very clear that for the most part, trans women are allies to women, period. And will 100%. Always be.
Yeah, women are the blueprint. I mean, at the end of the day, we followed, exactly.
We're inspired.
Yeah.
We're inspired by other women.
Yeah.
I think that we can coexist.
I want to ask you this 100%. Question.
Yeah.
With, on that, like, so we all saw T.S. Madison's like depiction of the character in Tyler Perry's new show Beauty in Black. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you feel that the character and who played it, the fact that it is a trans woman playing that character, how do you think that it's going to affect the way the masses see us? Like, where do you think?
Well, what do you think? Maybe like shed some light on the character.
I think that it can go either way.
But what's the character?
Okay, so it's Daga. Like for the guys for people like you haven't seen it yet, it's T.S. Madison. It's amazing. Like she's a black trans woman. She's playing the role of Daga in Beauty in Black. Tyler Perry's new show, where she's basically like a pump doctor. Like so, she's the one that like kind of like comes in. Like it's very where you rent the motel. The girls that know like that you get pumped with silicone or all of these things where I've seen like my worry is that like. There's already a narrative where like trans women hate women or like want to come for women, and then you see in that in that episode like where she's basically like how aggressive she was about like I mean she's playing a character, obviously that was what was asked of her, but like the way that my worry is that people are gonna then think, oh, like this is just exactly like, see, this like that is what's really going on, like that, you know,
or that's what all trans women
that's what all trans women like want or stuff like that. Like that's what it is.
I don't think so. I think that, you know, T.S. Madison is someone, you know, she has a big personality. She's super entertaining.
I love her.
Yeah, I do too. And I think that people are going to be more impressed with her performance because we all know her by now, especially Black people. They love T.S. Madison. And like, so I think that it's going to be more of a showcase of her acting skills versus a generalization of the trans experience.
That's what I hope it is. I want people to celebrate her for her, like her range and like for doing like the character that she's playing. Like that's definitely like what I would want.
Honestly, I feel like, and I don't know if I'm giving too much credit to society, but I really feel like we're at a point where people are realizing that every trans woman's experience is different. And because not every woman is the same. Right?
Exactly.
Yes. And now people are starting to learn that not every trans woman is the same. And so I still think that we're in this like static sort of zone where, you know, we're seeing underneath the rug and we're seeing the type of people and the type of bias that exists within intersectional communities. And so we're seeing like what Latinos think about trans, what, you know, white people think about trans, what trans people think about trans. Like we're sort of still in that exploration journey. And until we get to a point where people can still see us as human beings and understand that we are different and hopefully be celebrated for our differences. I don't know when that's going to happen for humanity, but hopefully it'll happen soon. But I just, you know, I feel grateful that we have this opportunity and we're building this platform so that 100%. We can talk about these issues.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
I'm excited to see how, I feel like, I was going to be honest with you, I thought it was going to be kind of a little bit opposite where like I feel like I'm definitely a lot more, like, I want, for lack of a better, like more old school or like a lot more like, I don't want to say jaded, but like a lot more like, a little bit more like,
you know what I think your problem is? I think is that you just haven't seen yourself be represented. And I can relate to that because I have yet to see a powerful trans Latina who is blended into society and is dealing with some of the issues that I'm dealing with be portrayed on television. And maybe that's coming from a place of that you just don't relate to the character that they're portraying. So you kind of feel like, we have more to offer than just that potentially.
I think definitely I want to be that for the other little girl, like for the other little Carolina.
I mean, it's going to take time, but I think honestly Hollywood is in a place because listen, I go on auditions all the time, and what I'm starting to realize is that, you know, Hollywood just uses the same template and rewrites it in different scenarios. And like trans women on TV for so long have been the escort, the junkie.
Yeah, I was an extra in a movie, and that was the role I had to play, was an escort.
Yeah, so a street
escort. I thought a streetwalker. I thought.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is trying to persuade Hollywood to write better stories, but you know, especially after the writer's strike, they're going to take care of themselves first before they start thinking about us. And so it's just a waiting game. But I think it's going to happen. And I mean, if you look at TikTok these days, you see so many examples of young trans women that are just doing their own thing, and that's really where we are until it's going to click for everyone else.
Do you think it will?
Of course.
I want to ask you this, with the election and how everything pans out now, what do you see for us in like the future? Do you think we're ever going to get to a point where the sensation, how trans people, I feel like we're so sensationalized. Do you feel like we'll ever get to a point where it'll end?
Of course. Because there's going to be so many of us that we're not going to be tokenized, because that's the whole thing, is that we have to dismantle the fact that there's passable trans women that people have no clue are trans. Like we 100%. Have to get through that Jerry Springer of it all and that shock and surprise. And we are already there. It's just not received by the masses just yet, because I see so many girls on social media that are like so much younger than me that are just living their normal life, and they're open with being trans. They're not hiding it. And I think once the rest of the world gets to see that, it's going to be desensitized, and we're not going to be, you know, exploited so much for our passibility, or even have to feel like we need to use our passibility as a way to gain acceptance at this point. Like, you should be able to accept me and respect me as a human being, period. I shouldn't have to use my beauty, or my passibility as a way to like coax you into loving me.
Damn, you know something, Carmen? That just hit home for me. Like,
because a lot of us trans people do that. A lot of the trans women, especially the old school trans women, we cling on to that as a strategy.
That's why for me, I'm very
for survival.
I stand on that because that's what I saw growing. Like when I came out into the scene at 21, those were the girls that, you know, like being in a relationship. It was a survival
tactic. It was to survive. Being passable meant survival. And so that's why a lot of us, we have these like outdated templates of like, we need to be this beautiful, passable girl in order to get, you know, gain access into normal life, you know? And so we have to sort of dismantle that a little bit within ourselves because it's not real power. It's superficial power. And so I hope that, you know, resonated with you guys at home. This is it for this episode. Maybe something to ponder about and think about. We have a lot of work to do.
Definitely. I would love to hear what you guys thought about, you know, the episode. Questions that you might have, drop them down in the comments. We're definitely going to look through all of that. And thank you.
You're welcome.
This was awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, till the next one. Café con Fuego.
Yes, baby.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye, guys.